So I really wanted to have you on here to talk about soaking. Some people
Yes.
call it masking, right? And I know there's a third word too, and I can't remember
Mhm.
what it is. Like there's a million words to describe like lots of things in our industry. But so soaking and masking, I think those are the two most popular words. So basically what that
Mhm.
is after you've done a pair of eyebrows, you take the pigment that you used and you spread it over the fresh brow and you let it sit for, a few minutes or a period of time. And that's called masking. So I know that in the industry, there are some people, and this is not by all means a controversial topic. This is just one of those
Mhm.
topics. Does it work? Does it not work? Is it worth it? Is it a waste of time? Um, and so some people have the opinion that soaking does nothing and it's a waste of time and it's ridiculous. And then there's other people that think it is no, it's really valuable, it works, it's important to my
Mhm.
healed result, and then probably everywhere in between. So I know that you have really strong opinions and convictions about soaking, and you are a stellar artist with great results, and you really believe that soaking has a lot to do with your healed and results. So I thought you'd be the perfect person on here
Mhm.
to discuss that, the whys and just your feelings about it. So if there's people on the fence not sure, this will um put them over the fence
Open
one
your
way or the
mind.
other. Open their minds. Yeah. So what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on masking? Talk to
Yeah.
us about masking.
So let's let's talk about how the pigment is inserted into the skin. No one's really talking about that. So some people think you're shading on the skin and the pigment just goes in there magically. No, the pigment does not go into the skin until the needle is out of the skin. It has to make a hole first, and then the pigment goes into the hole. So they're not thinking, I think, deep enough for this. For instance, if we get a scrape on our leg and we put alcohol on there, it's going to burn because it's still open. We put witch hazel, whatever, it's because the skin is still open. So if the skin is still open after we're shading, there's still room to get more pigment into the hole. And
Mhm.
I think they're just not thinking as deep as I'm kind of thinking of this. Also kind of look up wounds. Like I look at these 3D videos of like wound healing and how the needle goes into the skin. And I'm like, oh, so this, we were thinking about this all wrong. So if your pigment is going into the skin slowly, why don't you just leave the pigment there and let it get into the skin a little bit more? Also, if microbladers are masking at the end to get more pigment in, why we can't do the same when we're using machines? It's the same thing. The skin is still open.
Right. Right. And
So
and I was
that's what
around.
I think.
That's what you think. So I was around when microblading first hit the scene about 10 years ago. And I remember it was really Daria
Mhm.
Chirpus, Daria, who made microblading really popular here in the United States. And of course,
Mhm.
because it was
Yeah.
popular in Europe, and then Daria, made it really popular here in the United States. And then microblading took off, and that was probably 10, 12 years ago. Well, yeah, maybe 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of
That's the
people
first
were,
person I seen with the sticker.
yeah, yeah. And
Oh,
masking
yeah.
was
Yeah.
super popular back then. And I had long talks
Mhm.
about that's the first time like we ever really saw masking really in permanent makeup.
Mhm.
That's when I can remember it, is when microblading got popular. And and I never go into anything yes or no. I'm kind of like you. I want to do my research. I want to ask people smarter than me, and I had conversations with like Darlene Story and Mattia, over at LI, um, about it. And so I was on board with the masking. I felt it was beneficial and it worked and whatnot.
Yeah.
um, and so in my color theory class, kind of, been around for a long time, I actually do a little segment on masking. So I agree with you.
Hmm.
If it was, and it became very acceptable, Nicole. Everybody that not everybody, but a lot of people that microbladed masked, and it was very acceptable
Yes,
in the PMU industry. I
yes,
don't remember anybody having strong opinions that it wasn't, it was something that didn't work or something that was ridiculous. I don't remember
yeah.
those
It was like a must
conversations.
thing. You had to do it.
Yeah, so why now with powder brows or ombre brows? I just don't, I'm just wondering, I wonder why now? And maybe it's because
Yeah, they're both
that,
wounds.
yeah, and you know what? And I think maybe what has a lot to do with it is the industry, everybody, a lot of people doing the powder brows and ombres now using single needle, they're newer artists. They were not around 10 years ago when masking was very
Hmm.
popular, first, became in the
Hmm.
industry and it was very popular and very acceptable. And they weren't around. So maybe that's why, because I think the microblading technique, although still popular, it's it's not as popular as it was 10 years ago,
Yeah,
7 years ago, because artists have gotten more versatile, right? Um, so
yeah,
maybe that's why they just weren't around. They don't remember those conversations, and I don't know.
yeah. Also, with instructing, you have instructors that don't believe in it, and then they teach the students that, and then the students believe that, and they never do their research, and now they're teaching, and it's just trickling on down. Now everyone
Yeah,
thinks it's no good.
yeah. I think some of the, and correct me if I'm wrong, like if you disagree with me, it's totally okay.
It's fine.
Okay, so some of my things about for a soak to work is the pigment needs to stay wet while it's masking. If the pigment
Yes,
dries,
yes.
it's not gonna work. So the pigment
'Cause
needs to stay
what is it
wet.
doing? Because it can't run into the hole.
Right,
It
right.
needs to be wet to get in there.
Right. So that's like number one.
Yeah.
So we both do agree with that. Okay. So number two, I'm not sure if you'll agree with me on this. So
Okay.
I feel that when we're implanting pigment with a machine
Hmm.
the pigment's being deposited with the machine, right? And then we
Hmm.
mask, I do feel that masking that pigment, although it soaks in, and I do believe that, I'm not sure if it soaks in at the same depth. I'm wondering, and I'm not like
Mm.
steadfast with that. I would not like argue with you about it, but the way my mind works, that's my question. That's my only question about masking is I wonder if it goes, if the soaking, if the pigment being soaked,
As deep.
does it
Mm.
soak in as deep as the pigment that was
Hmm.
deposited with the needle. And if I had to
The
guess
first
one way,
time.
right, and if I
Yeah.
had to guess, I'd probably say, no, it probably doesn't. It would make scientific sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm kind of analytical that it wouldn't. So, but it does soak
Like
in, but
maybe
probably more
some ink is
shallow.
in the hole. Yeah.
So what are your
Yeah,
thoughts
I
on
can see,
that?
I can understand what you're saying. Um, so I've been looking into how long does it take the skin to heal? Like, how long does it take these cells for your body to recognize there's a wound and they start coming together? So
Right.
that's what I've been researching lately. Like, how long does it take that little puncture hole to heal? So I'm still thinking about that, Taryn, but I understand what you're saying because if there's some pigment already in the hole, is the mass pigment sitting on top a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
believe it goes
I mean,
in and
look, you're
goes.
making me think more.
Yeah, yeah. This
Yeah,
would
it's
be an
going in, but
interesting
where?
study, right?
How
It would
deep?
be an interesting study, but like, how would you study that?
Yeah.
But it would be great to study it. So, yeah, now how is it, how has masking, why do you mask, Nicole? Do you mask just to get more healed in color? Like, why do you take 10, 15 minutes out of your, why do you mask? What do you feel it does for your healed in work?
I feel like I don't have to go over the brows as much and the saturation that I want and I need for my client, it helps with that. So that means less trauma. I don't have to say, oh, I wanted the brows 6 times just to get this look. I don't have to do that because I mask in between my passes. So now I could do 2 passes and I could be good, 2.5. But it also depends on the person's skin. So it's not for everyone.
Right,
It's totally not because sometimes you could do it like, whoa, the skin is taking the pigment really fast. I wouldn't mask them because once I mask them, then it might be a different look I didn't want or the client didn't want. Say, for instance, the mature skin clients, um, I won't mask as much. Well, it depends on what look they want because some of them want very soft, some want bold, but they don't understand. I probably masked and gave them a darker look than they intended, but because of that, I mean, I did that because the skin is going to shed, it's going to lighten up, and they don't understand that part. So I always have to push it's going to lighten up. But yeah, I feel like it's case by case, and I do it so that it's less trauma. So that I want to continue to go over those brows. I don't know if you hear this a lot, but in the comments, you may get the same thing. I get ladies and guys asking, how many passes did you do? Because I had to do 5 and 6. Like, well, you need to troubleshoot. I mean, a long time ago, I used to do like 4, but I stopped doing that because I started masking way more.
right.
And also Jay. Jay loves to mask because he feel like when he's using a single needle, especially, it's not enough. So he would mask, and sometimes I see him, he go switch to a 3, or he'll get a mask. He'll switch the needle, but I think it helped with my results. I have clients that's constantly coming back and asking for touch up or color boost. I'm like, why you here? I don't want your money. But because I mask, I feel like with the right pigment, it's helping me. It's helping my clients with better heal results.
Yeah, and I think, the longer we can go before refreshes, the better for the skin. Yeah, and
Yeah,
unfortunately, not
it's
everybody
gonna. I don't
feels
like
that
it to
way.
pile up and stick out.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
And unfortunately, there
Yeah.
are people in the industry that don't feel this way. They want their clients back once a year, to make that refresh, income
To
or
make.
yeah. And
Hmm.
I've just never really agreed with that. I don't agree with that at all. I think the longer,
Yeah, this is an investment.
right, right, right. And you're gonna get
Give
to a
them their
point if
money
you're,
worth.
yeah, Nicole, and especially with some skins, if you're re-tattooing the skin in the same area like once a year, that could be too soon for some skin
Yeah.
types. You're gonna get built up scar tissue, and
Hmm.
then you might get to a point where that
Yeah.
brow can't take color anymore, and not because it's overpacked with pigment, just because it's been traumatized, too many times, too frequently. So we have to keep that in mind. I think some people are under the mindset that they're gonna, if their eyebrows or their eyeliner or their work lasts too long, it's going to affect their income. And I'm living proof that it's just the opposite because clients, if you have two women sitting in a salon, right? And one client is like, yeah, I go see Taryn or I go see Nicole, and I only have to go every 3 years. My brows last 3 years and they look
Hmm.
fantastic. And then the other lady is like, well, I go to so and so and I got to go once a year. And
Yeah.
the one who's going once a year is going to say, okay, who's your girl? And she's going to, right? Because clients don't want
Yeah.
to go that often. They do want to go get as long as they can out of their brows. So I hear it all the
Yeah.
time from clients. So do you agree?
Yeah, me as well. Totally agree. I always tell my clients, I'm trying to give you your money worth. I don't need to see you every year. I at one point I thought that until I started seeing my clients come back. I'm like, why are you here? He's like, well, you said to come back. And I have to change my whole website. No, please email me first. Let me let me look at the brows and let me judge them. Because
Yeah.
what you're seeing and what you're thinking, what I probably told you before, is incorrect. And I'm big enough to say I was wrong. That wasn't correct.
Yeah.
Everyone's skin is different. Everyone don't need it every year. And it's time for us to be honest with our clients and let them know you don't need it. So
Yeah.
now I'm to the point where I'm scaring my clients. So if they send a picture and they constantly ask my assistants for a color boost or a touch up, I'm like, tell them to call. I'll speak to them. And I tell them, your brows are going to look a fat tire under your skin. Do you know what the guys look like when they used to get branded? I tell them that's what their brows are going to look like. And they're like, oh, no, I don't want that. I'm like, well, it's going to look like a keloid. on your
Yes,
brow, on your
yeah,
face.
yeah,
And they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that." I'm like, "Well, give it another 3 years and call me back."
yeah, yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah, so I'm starting to scare them now.
Sometimes you have to, do you know, like our clients are so used to
Yeah,
having to come back, every 2.5, 3 years, sometimes 4 years. I would say between
yeah,
2 and 4 years, depending on the skin type, do you
yeah,
know?
mhm,
But some of them are so obsessed. They want that fresh, healed brow look all the time that they try to get in your
yeah,
books like sooner than they need to be. So sometimes you have to talk clients back a little bit. And that's what I always say,
yeah,
it's about the integrity of the skin. You don't want to end up
yeah,
with a bunch of scar tissue. I mean, then there's
yeah,
no turning back once you end up with too much scar tissue. So you have to wait. You're
yeah,
looking, you got another year out of those before you need me, probably, you know. But
yeah. They
I
don't
think
understand the scar tissue. Maybe
no,
we need to make videos of what can happen and what it will look like on top of the skin. And you know I
yes,
like making funny videos, so maybe I'll get some Play-Doh and put it on top of a brow. Like this is what your brow's gonna look like if you keep coming back and you don't need it.
yes, I know. And and it's like, and try that would be funny. That might get the but there needs to be more people talking about this subject because I think the industry now is an industry that are super light saturation, very very shallow in the
Yeah,
skin, and they are taking. I was just talking to an artist from Europe, a big artist over there, and they're sick and tired of their client complaining that it's taken 3 4 times to get all the color. But
yeah,
they were saying, but this is what's popular over here. Artists don't mind it. This is what's popular, taking 3 or 4 times to get the brows, the saturation. He goes, but I follow you and some artists over there, and you guys are using bigger needles. You're getting your saturation in 1 and 2 sessions, and I want to learn
mhm,
that. So I think
yeah,
there's a big portion of the industry that um, they only use one needle type, a small needle, and they
mhm,
are going shallow. They are undersaturating. Uh, so the brow looks really pretty when they leave the studio. It's like it's picture worthy. They can post it
yeah,
and it looks good on Instagram,
yeah,
uh, but they're not healing with much color at all. So
yeah.
I
I
think the
get
industry.
clients showing me that all the time.
Yes, yeah, we do too here in Las Vegas, a
I'm
lot,
like, it's not
Nicole.
gonna stay.
Yeah, we have clients
And you're
that,
in heat. You have all these people in heat.
yeah,
Like they don't understand that you need more saturation for your brows to last out there in Vegas.
yeah. I try to tell young artists, look, your brows shouldn't, they need to look too dark when they leave your studio. Now, I know that's not picture
Yeah.
worthy. You don't want to put a picture of a brow that's a little too dark because that could scare a client, but that's just the truth of the matter. Like I
Mhm.
have mastered my eye for saturation. I know how much darker, I know how dark that brow needs to look. So in 7 to 10 days, that brow is that soft, the right amount of saturation and what my client
Mhm.
paid me for. And sometimes I don't post my right afters because they are a little too dark. They do look a little too solid, and
Mhm.
that would scare people.
Here's
But
someone.
yes, it scares someone.
Yeah.
But the healed results are beautiful, absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful. And that brow is going to last 2 to 3 to 4 years, for that client. So I
Yeah.
think the industries, that's kind of where they're at now, is getting that low saturation,
I want the
working
soft
shallow. Yeah.
look. But what they can do also, because I think they're doing it because of social media, because
Yes.
I've done it to scare clients before. Like I tell them, you need more saturation because of your skin type. They're like, no, I want this. And they show me a picture. I'll do it. I'm like, well, you might have to see me more. You want to spend more money. So if they constantly ask me, I would do it just so that I can prove a point. And they come back like, what did I tell you? They were like, you're right, Nicole. I'm like, and you know what? I'm gonna get a recording of this. I need this video because I told you this the first time. And and you know what? I need to start posting some of those because it's good for other people to see when a client understands they need to trust the artist
Yeah.
with their knowledge. You're coming to me for a reason.
Right.
But the other thing I was saying is that if artists want that light, airy look because of social media, show your first or second pass for social media, and then show the rest, show the buildup. You want this or that. Do some case studies where you do it soft on the same skin type and you do it dark on the same skin type and show the healed results
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
the clients can understand they need a little bit more pigment.
Yeah, I love that. Like when we do a brow or I do a
Yeah,
brow and it looks a little too solid, a little too dark, I'll wait for my healed result.
yeah,
Then I'll show both. Like this is what she looked like right after,
yeah.
and this is what she looked like, 4 weeks
Mhm.
healed, so they can see,
Yeah,
But I think a lot of young artists are struggling. We get a lot of emails and a
yeah,
lot of DMs with artists just really struggling. They
yeah,
can't get their pigment to heal in, and they're just struggling with pigment retention. And I just
yeah.
think it's because of what's being taught.
They also letting the clients control the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because clients are seeing these light, airy brows, the right afters that look so beautiful, right? They're almost picturesque. There's no pinkness, no trauma to the
Mhm.
skin. And clients are seeing
Yeah,
that and it's misleading. It's misleading. So clients think that that's what their brows should
yeah.
look like when they leave, and that's what their brows are going to look like when they're healed. But
When
if
they
they
heal, yeah.
Right. And what clients are finding out is, yeah, that's what it looks like when they're healed. I mean, when they leave, but when they healed, they've lost all that color or a lot of color and they got to go back. And some of them are having to go
Mhm.
back 3 and 4 times. So
Yeah.
I don't know. So,
I have a client, I have a client I actually in Chicago. Well, I did it for free because when I'm doing these studies, I'm going to do it for free. So I did hers, and she sent me a picture, and she's like, when's my touch up? They're really soft. I'm like, well, I did that on purpose. Like I told you, I showed you the picture. Like, oh, okay, when you come back, are you gonna put more? Like, yes, I just needed that, so I could have pictures also for her to explain her healing process and things like that. But I seen pictures, I was like, yeah, I kind of knew that was gonna happen. But they
yeah,
were beautiful on picture and video. They look great. It's a shadow now. It's definitely a shadow.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.